Hi everyone, today's video we are going to make this little felt embroidered green man. My name is Sarah, welcome to my channel, Sarah Homfray Embroidery. And we've been looking a lot at leaves and trees and woods and forests recently. If you saw my video last week on these leaves here, we actually went out into the woods and we picked some leaves and we drew around them and we made this embroidery inspired by them. We've had the first of my forest embroidery classes as well, which was really super. Had absolutely fabulous day. Thank you for joining me. We've got the next one coming up shortly. So I thought we would keep that theme going a little bit today in our Green Man project. So if you don't know what a green man is, it's a very ancient motif symbolising rebirth and growth, and can be seen in many different forms of art. So art itself, in architecture, but also embroidery. And you may have seen this already. So this is the V&A book, V&A A Maker's Guide to Embroidery. I've got some projects in here. One of them is my little green man. So he looks a little bit like this over here. So this is a little patch that I made inspired by a medieval embroidery. So I just thought I would show you where that inspiration came from. So you may have seen this book as well. We have a video on this book. I put it up here if you want to see more of the delights that are in here, because it's a fabulous book. But this is English medieval embroidery, Opus Anglicanum. And in this book, we have the steeple Aston cope. So it doesn't look much like a cope now. It was a cope and it's now an altar frontal. It was cut up and made into an altar frontal, but it's got some really amazing symbols in it here. And it's lots of oak leaves intertwining themselves all around this now altar frontal. Was a goat, now an altar frontal. But if you look really carefully, you can see these little green men. There's two of them here. So they were based on the quatrefoil, which is literally 4 leaves. So it would be intersecting circles, and they've got a little face in the middle and they've got these leaves around them. And this dates back to 1330 to 1340. So you can see how ancient this symbol is. It goes back a lot further than that as well, but it's appearing in these religious vestments, these copes and these altar frontals. And you can just see here these little green men in the oak leaves here, and if I just turn over, you can see a little close-up of him. It's just disappearing off the edge of the page here, but this was my inspiration for my little patch that I made here. You can see his little face and this representation of these leaves. There is another one I just want to show you as well. This one here, here's some more of them here. And this is 2 panels depicting Christ with saints and the Virgin and Child with saints, and some little faces with some leaves around them. So this very ancient symbol is appearing in lots of different places. So I thought I would take my little design I did for that V&A book and my experience recently of being out in the forest and out in the trees and making these embroideries from leaves, and we would make our own little green man out of felt and embroidery stitches. So if you want to have a go at this little green man project, of course we've got a free PDF for you. We give all our designs away for free on the free stuff page on the website. So you can go and check that out. There's all the templates you need to make them, and I'll run through all of that as well. We've got a colour diagram as well if you want to do it the same way as I've done it. So do go and download that. There's a link in the description below this video where you can get that free PDF. I'm going to stitch my green man on some mustard linen, which we have in the shop as well. And if you want some felt and you don't have some felt, we've got little packs of felt colours here. There's different colours in there. There's some greens and oranges and sort of nice bluey green colours as well. So we've got those in the shop. The link for that is also in the description below. So I've got myself these 3 colours of felt. I've got 2 greens and a sort of browny green, so something with a little bit of contrast so that your leaves stand out. It's not all the same colour. You can do it all the same colour if you want, that's absolutely fine. And the first thing that we're going to do is cut out the base for the whole piece. So you will need your templates from that free PDF, and this little chap here looks a bit like a weird ghost. He's going to go underneath all of the leaves. So what you need to do here is you need to cut this template out. So you've got a little paper template, and then you can draw around that on your felt and you can cut your shape out. If you have some prick and pounce materials, the prick and pounce transfer method, this is a really great time to use it. Works really well on felt. You can make a little pricking out of this guy and you can put his eyes on as well. And these lines will denote where the leaves go later. That's a little guide to where to put the leaves. And if you prick and pounce the whole thing, including the outline, onto your felt, you'll get the eyes and these lines and the shape as well. And then you can just cut it very carefully out of your felt. Now this isn't symmetrical, so don't worry if they're not exactly the same on the other side. We've got a little bit of interest in there. Leaves aren't all the same size and all the same shape. So if it's not quite the same, that doesn't matter. If you haven't got the prick and pounce method, you could also cut these little eye shapes out, place them in position on here and draw around them so you've got those points on there. So you will need to somehow transfer that design or use your pattern pieces to cut out this initial shape here, and then he is ready to go onto our fabric backing. So let me talk through the setup now. So I have framed up my mustard coloured linen fabric into some stretcher bar frames. I've got a backing on, calico backing on the back. I like to put a backing on mine to give it an extra stable surface to stitch on and somewhere to finish the ends of your threads as well. So frame that up in there. You can use a ring frame, you don't need to use a stretcher bar frame. And I'm going to hold it in my versatile table clamp. I'm going to clamp this to the table so it's nice and steady for me to work on. I've got two hands free. I'm going to use the second one just to keep it still under the camera, but one is absolutely fine. So let me get that set up ready and we'll get our base piece of felt stitched down. So I'm just going to place my little felt ghost in the middle of my fabric here, because the leaves are all going to go on top of this and we're going to build the leaves up. So I've just put him right in the middle, and I'm just going to use an ordinary sewing cotton to sew all thread, nice strong sewing cotton. I'm just going to base this in position. You can put a couple of pins in if you like. I'll just hold him in place and then I can just start my thread. Just going to start it underneath that felt with a little knot. We'll just hide that in there. And then I'm just going to do some invisible basting. So I'm just going to come up near to the edge, not right to the edge. Some of these edges might show under the leaves, so I just want to leave them a little bit free so we get some nice layers in there. So I'm going to come fairly close to the edge, straight up over a little bit of the felt and straight back down. And that will just hold that in place and you won't be able to see those stitches. So should any of them show underneath a leaf later, we won't be able to see it. So I'm just going to work my way all the way around just inside the shape there and just get him tacked down. I might just go down the middle as well, just make sure he's nice and firm. So I'm going to do that now. So he's down nice and securely, and when we put the leaves on as well, that'll secure it even more. So that's just to hold it in place. So before we get going on the leaves, we need to stitch his eyes. Now whenever you put eyes on something, it really brings it to life. It's really quite amazing, but there are two and they need to look as similar as possible to look a little bit realistic. So what I suggest you do is you work them up together. So you work the same bit. You start on one and then you do the same bit on the second one and then you go back and you do it. So you work the both of them together and that's more likely to look the same. So I'm going to show you the process for that now. So I'm going to use these Burmilana threads because they've got a wool content in them and we're doing felt and it goes quite well with it. But you can use a stranded cotton. I suggest 2 strands maybe for this, or if you're good at doing fine work you could go down to 1 strand. For the eyes, they're quite detailed but they're very simple stitches, so you just need to concentrate and just take your time doing these. I'm just going to use 1 strand of each of these. So I'm going to start with the green in the centre first, and then I will go put the pupil in the middle, and then I'll fill in with the white around the edge. So I'm just going to do my little starting knot on the top. That's a waist knot that gets cut off. I can do my 2 little stitches inside here because this is all going to get covered up. I'm just going to do a satin stitch, doesn't matter which angle you do it at. Do the other one the opposite way though, so if that's that angle, do that one that way. I'm just going to go straight across that shape and just put this circle in the centre first. So I'm just going to come up next to that stitch there, try and stick to the lines. Because it's felt, it doesn't have a warp and a weft, it doesn't have a weave, so go straight up and down out of this felt to make sure you get it in the right place. We'll put an outline around it as well, so if it's not super neat, don't worry, we can neaten that up later. I'm just going to fill in across the circle in the centre first. Last couple of stitches in there, just try and keep them nice close together so that the felt doesn't show underneath. Just take your time with it. I think that's the last one. So what I'm going to do now is jump over and do the opposite eye, bring those up together. I'm going to change the angle, so this time I'm going to go that way just so that they look opposite and they look more of a pair, and then we'll come back and put the pupil in. So I've not marked this on because obviously I've stitched over it. I'm just going to go right in the middle and then just do a little circle. So we're going to go the opposite way. So if your satin stitches are that way, this row is going to go that way, so we can go across the stitches. I'm just going to do kind of a stitch across the middle. You can see that size there. So I'm not going all the way to the edge. Imagine what an actual eye looks like. You can go and have a look in the mirror and look at your own if you're not sure. And I'm just going to do a few little satin stitches that way. Try and make a circle so they're just going to get shorter. You can have a little practice of this first if you want to. You'll know if you follow my videos that I'm always going on about sampling. That's my little sampler. I tried the eyes out first before I went to the actual thing. So if you're not sure, do just have a little practice of it first. Make sure you're confident with what you're doing. Just going straight down into that. Make that little circle in the middle, short one on the bottom. Like so. And then we'll jump across the other side and do the same there. So we've got two little green pupils in, so we're going to put the whites in, see the whites of his eyes. But I did pick this lighter colour originally, but it can look a little bit too stark, I think, especially on something this size. We're going to have lots of greenery around it. So I've actually swapped it up for a different colour. So this is a more sort of fawny beige colour. It's still enough of a contrast with the other greens to show as an eye, but it's not going to be quite so popping out so much. So I've just softened that off and used that, changed that colour up there. I'm just going to fill in this white area now. So we've been doing satin stitch in this direction here. So I'm going to do satin stitch, but I'm going to just swap it round and go that way with it. Doesn't really matter which way you do it. I'd always suggest doing satin stitch at an angle. It just comes out much neater if you do it at an angle. If you just do it straight, it can look a little bit odd. We are going to put that outline around it as well, don't forget. So just nice and close, the satin stitches together, filling in that shape now. So on either side of the eye, doesn't matter which side you start on, they're going to get very small stitches at the end, but that's okay. Just keep putting the small stitches in, and then when you come up around the eye, you're going to stop when you get to that green part there. And then they're going to be little tiny stitches. So as close together as you can, try and cover up the felt. Don't worry that they're small, just keep going with that satin stitch and just fill in those white areas. Right up to the point there. They are tiny little stitches, but they're fine. Just keep going. If you need to put more in to cover the felt, you can go over the top of them as well. And while I've got this colour in, I'm just going to put that little highlight on the pupil. It's just going to be one stitch, but you'll be amazed how much difference that can make. It can really bring something to life and make it look lively. So I'm just going to come up straight up, right out of the middle of that centre, and I'm going to go right up to the edge of that green there and go straight back down, straight up and straight back down. If you do angles, stitch will all move, and then you'll see what a difference that makes. We just pull that down slowly. Got that little highlight. Suddenly he's got a little sparkle in his eye and he's come to life. So exactly the same on the other side. So don't forget when you come over to the other side to swap the angle again so that they're mirroring each other. So I've got the green thread that I used for the pupil. I'm going to put a little outline around it. Now you can use this to rescue anything that needs rescuing. So this right eye is a little bit flatter than the left eye. So draw the eyes on as carefully as you can. It's a little bit harder on the felt to do that, but we can rescue it a little bit with this. So when I'm going to put this outline around it, this one's a little bit deeper. It's a little bit more depth to it that way. So what I can do is I can bring my outline in a little bit, and on the right one I can bring my outline out a bit, and that should even that out. So I'm going to come right over the top of these stitches for this one, just bring that outline in. I'm just going to do a back stitch around it. Nice simple stitch. So just come up ahead of myself and go down into the end of the previous stitch. We're coming right over the ends of those stitches now. I'm going to try and make this eye a little bit smaller and the other one a little bit bigger, and that should all even itself out. So just a little trick for you. So just go right up to the point there, get this nice shape of the eye, and then into that point, and then round the rest of the eye. So just right on the edge of those stitches there, and then on the left, on the right eye, I'll come just to the outside of the stitches, and hopefully that will even them out a bit. Okay, so there's his eyes finished. They're not quite looking symmetrical, but it gives them a little bit of character. When all these leaves are on, that won't be so noticeable either. So I'm going to carry on, and we're going to put the leaves on. So let's get cutting some of those. So I've cut one of the little templates out from the PDF. So there's 3 different leaves. The PDF says there how many leaves you need to cut out to do the version that I have done, and what whether they're left or right, because they flip over as well. So check the PDF out for how many you need to do, and in what colours. There's a colour reference there as well, if you want to do the 3 colours like I've done. Now these are a little bit fiddly, so I'm actually going to show you this. It's the same as it was for the centre piece, but that's a bit bigger and easier to draw around and easier to cut. So I'm going to cut one of these because they're a bit more fiddly. There is another size of this project on the PDF. If this one is a little bit small and a little bit too fiddly, there's another one that's a bit larger that hopefully you should find a bit easier, so you can choose which one. I'm going to do the smaller one of the 2. So I'm just going to get my felt here, and I'm going to put my little template on it. So some of the leaves will be on the left side and some will be on the right side. If you want to mark your little template, you can do that. You could do right and left. And then I'm going to draw around it with a pen. So I've got a black waterproof and fade proof pen here. It's a nice fine one, which is a really good one to draw on the felt with. You can use a felt tip as well. Just test it out on a little bit of felt first. Make sure it doesn't do anything horrendous and run everywhere. And just have to think about as well, is your leaf turning over. If you draw around it with a black line, the black line can show. So I suggest that you draw it from the back and flip it over. So if I want a left-handed one that goes on that side, if I draw around that now and I cut it out and I've got some of that black line showing, I'll see that on my green mat. So if you want a left-handed one, flip it over and do the right-handed one. Now there are an even number of each, so if you cut one left and one right and then you flip them over, you should be absolutely fine. But I just wanted to point that out because the black pen might show when you cut it out. So let's just stick with that way. Now felt's a little bit tricky to draw on. If you just go on the surface of it and just do it slowly, you can get a good line around it. But I found a really good way to do it is just to put lots of little dots. So just go little dots all the way around, and that's actually a really nice way of marking the felt. You're not moving the felt when you're drawing on it, and you get a nice accurate shape. So you want to be as accurate as you can with drawing around these, because then you have to cut it out as well, and each process it changes a little bit, which is okay because all the leaves are different, so I'm not worried about it all being symmetrical. But just take your time to do these and get these cut out quite accurately. So the little dot method I found works really well. Get a nice accurate drawing, and then we're just going to cut that out. Just cut around it loosely first so you're not fighting a whole sheet of felt. And I've just got a sharp pair of scissors here that I'm going to use, and just going to cut it very carefully. It's easier if you move the felt than the scissors. Keep the scissors in the same place and turn the felt. It's a much easier way of cutting something. Just take your time and just try and cut on that line or just to the inside of it if you can. So there's my little felt leaf, and you can just see the edge of that black there, so you can either go and trim that off if you want, but I suggest you turn that over and then you use that as that side, and then you don't have any problems with those black marks. So I suggest that you cut all of your leaves out first, because we're just going to place them in position and make sure we've got the right number of leaves. Now, what I strongly suggest you do at this point is make sure that you know where all your leaves are going. So I've provided a little diagram in the PDF, and I suggest you just print that off and you just put the leaves on there. So when you've cut that one out, you can put it on there, just so they're roughly in the right place, so that you don't have a big pile of leaves and think, I don't know what's left and I don't know what's right and I don't know where they all are. So you can put them all on there, and then you can see your colours as well. And we've got the colour diagram in the PDF as well if you want to follow that to have the same one as me. Alternatively, I put a little bit of fabric in a hoop and I've just pinned them in place. So I've kind of exploded it and it's gone out, but every leaf is in the right place. So that one goes there, that one goes there, and then I know where they've got to go on my piece. I can just take them off here and I can put them on my piece. So you can do it either way, but I do recommend that you do that, otherwise you're going to get in a bit of a mess because you can't find the right leaf. So once you've done that, we can start to sew them down. So I'm going to start by stitching down his nose. There is a pattern piece for that on the PDF as well. And I'm going to stitch this one all the way round. So the leaves are going to stand out a little bit. We're not going to stitch them in the whole way around, but I'm going to stitch his nose down. So I've got a sewing thread, just a normal sew-all thread, so a nice fine one, just to stitch this down with. And I'm actually going to go all the way around the edge now and coming up on the outside and just taking a little bit of felt down into the felt just to hold it in place, and go all the way around the edge like that. Make sure you've got it in the middle. Has it got a broken nose? So up on the outside, down, just catch a little bit of that felt, needle goes straight down just to hold that in place. So now for the fun bit, let's get the leaves on our green man. So I'm going to start with the area around his eyes and his nose, and I'm going to take this one here. So all of those leaves are on the design, you can refer to that, but I would suggest this is a good place to start. And because I've got this cotton in from stitching on his nose, I'm just going to use that to tack this into place now. So it's going to go underneath his eye and up into the corner there. So I'm just going to use that to get that down, and then we can put a decorative stitch down the middle. So I'm just going to catch it there, do a couple of stitches down the middle. I want these leaves to overlap, I don't want to all be fixed down, so I'm just going to go right down the middle there with a couple of stitches straight up, straight back down, like that invisible basting we did right at the beginning, and that will hold it in place. And as with the eyes, I suggest you do the other side at the same time. So I'm going to take my little leaf off my pattern piece there, and we can put that in place. There's a little line here, so that kind of goes on that line, but it goes underneath the eye. Make sure they sort of look symmetrical, and I can come over with this one. Just going to step that over there, little stitch underneath just to walk it across on the back, so I haven't got a great big long thread on the back. That's going to go to the side of his nose and underneath his eye. And the great thing about felt is if you just need to pull it into shape, you can do that. It needs to be slightly different shape. Just going to trim that ever so slightly so that goes nicely underneath his eye. That's better. Just catch that in. It's already coming to life. He's going to look fab. I do say so myself. So 3 stitches down there to tack those into place. So I'm going to stitch the veins of the leaves in a mustardy yellow colour, kind of goes with the background, so I've got a little bit of interest. I want to see the veins on it, make the leaf stand out a little bit. So I've just put my starting knot underneath this large part here, do my 2 little stitches underneath this felt leaf here, and then I can just go straight down the middle. I'm going to use a stem stitch for this, so we do a little forward stitch, come up in the middle, tight. I'm just going to go right down the centre of this leaf with the stem stitch. That joins the end of the previous stitch, and these little stitches overlap so they look like a really nice stem for my leaves. Stem stitch for stem. And I'm not going to go all the way to the end of the leaf. I'm just going to stop maybe about 3/4 of the way down so that those edges are nice and dimensional, but the leaf is held in place. So I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank those of you who hit the super thanks button, especially last month on our leaves video, to show your appreciation and that you were enjoying it and you enjoyed that video. It looks a little bit like this. If you're enjoying a video and you want to donate, everything that we get goes back into the filming, into the equipment that we need to make more videos for you. Your names are scrolling across the bottom of the screen now. Thank you very much. And also to our channel members and our patrons as well, who support me every month, and they get lots of extra content in there. There's another one coming for you very soon. We're having a little discussion about that, what that will be. I've let you have a choice about that, so thank you guys very much as well for all your support and to keep this channel running. So I'm just going to put in a little vein now. So we're going to do one down here and one down here. We'll start in the middle, again not going all the way to the edge. So just maybe 2 or 3 stitches. Like so. So we've still got that little edge that pops up there. We'll come back to this side and do one that side. That one probably only needs 2. Pop down here and do a little one down here. So just probably 4 going into the the little edge of the leaf there to make it look like a finished leaf. So 2 will be fine, the same on the other side. Come down a little bit. Like so. So it looks like a leaf. It's nice and secure, but we've still got this 3-dimensional element to it. So I'm going to do the same on the other side, do the same to the right as you've done to the left as you go to get the best results. And then you can just start bringing in these other elements. So I suggest next you do his little eyebrows. These leaves were made to be little leaf eyebrows over the top. So that's going to join the top of the nose there, and it goes over the top. Now you can choose where you put them, and if you want to pin them all on first and maybe tack them in position, you can do that. You might find that easier. You can overlap them if you want. On the diagram I've got this little eyebrow one overlapping this here, but if you don't stitch all the way up to the edge, then you can choose whether that goes underneath that or that goes underneath that. So that's the good part about it. If you don't stitch all the way to the edge, you've got some flexibility. So I'm going to overlap that one there and then put the other one on the other side. You can start to build up your green man. So I will put the order that I recommend as well on that PDF for you to build up your design, but start with this focal point of where his face is and to build the leaves up there. So I'm going to sit and do a few of those now. I'm going to do exactly the same way as I've done this one. I'm going to build it up and then we'll come back and have a look at him. So I've finished all of my leaves. I've got those on and stitched down with this stem stitch down the middle. I think he's looking quite cute, but he still needs some acorns. So I'm going to zoom in and show you how to do one of those. So the acorns are on the outline design on that PDF, so you need to transfer them onto your design. I'm going to draw them freehand straight on here, but if you want to transfer them using one of the transfer methods, so you could use a prick and pounce. You could make yourself a tiny little pricking and move that around and use a prick and pounce method. You can use the trace and tack method. Can't remember what it is. Trace and tack method, where you trace it onto some tissue paper and you tack it and rip the tissue paper off. You could use some carbon paper. We've got a video on all of the different transfer techniques, so do check that out if you want one of those. I'm going to freehand it on and I'm going to use my water erasable pen just in case it needs to come off again. And I'm going to look at my diagram to see where it is. So we've got one that comes out here. So I'm just going to look at that, and it's only 2 little lines, one like that and one like that, and then it's a little U shape on the end for the acorn cup. Put a line across it, U shape, line across it, and then the little acorn sitting in the cup like so. I'm going to do the stems for this in a dark brown, still just the one strand of the Lana thread, the Burmilana thread. If you're using a stranded cotton, probably 2 strands for this. This is a little bit thicker. I'm just going to go around there in the stem stitch, just as we've been doing all the way down the leaves, up to the acorn. And then while I've got that thread there, I'm going to fill this in with little French knots. You could do some satin stitch if you want to. I think the French knots is quite nice for the texture that you get on the acorn cups. I'm just going to fill that shape in over the needle once and back. Needle goes in, pull it tight, pull the needle through. A whole video on French knots if you want to know how to do those in a bit more detail. And I'm just going to fill that in. That makes that really nice texture for the acorn cup. last little one in the corner there, and I can finish that thread off inside there because that's going to get covered. So there's my 2 little finishing stitches. You can weave it on the back if you want to. Turn your frame over and weave it under some threads on the back. I can actually go down there ready to do that bit, and then I'm going to bring in my next colour, do the ends in green, do my 2 little stitches in there, and then we're just going to do a satin stitch for this one. I'm actually going to start at the point this time. I'm going to go down towards the cup, and I've done all the others at an angle, but I think for this one these acorns are always nice and smooth, so let's try this and see what this looks like. I'm taking it down towards those French knots. If I try and come up there with my needle and I go through the French knot, then I'm in a whole world of trouble. So take the needle down, a little bit of satin stitch, pack your stitches in nice and tightly. You can put lots in here because you want them nice and textured. So just finish that off nice and smooth, pack your stitches in nice and tightly. I can just carry that thread over to there, ready to do that one. I've carried my brown thread here, ready to do the stem up here, and I'm just going to do exactly the same for this one. The last few stitches on that acorn there, really pack these in tightly. You can even put a few on top of each other if you want to. Nice juicy new fresh acorns. There we go. So that's one in, very easy to do. I'm going to put those all the way around him, and before I do that, I'm just going to show you how to do the mouth, just to finish off his face. So I've got a couple of strands of that same dark brown that I've done the acorn branches in, and again I haven't marked this on. You can if you want to, but all it is 2 little fly stitches. I'm going to come up right down the middle, so in the middle between the eyes and in the middle, left to right and top to bottom. And then I'm going to go little stitch to the left. We make a little V shape, so it's like an upside down fly stitch. And then we don't put a long tail on it, just a tiny little tail, and that will just be the top of one of his lips. And this will suddenly give him a bit of character. He might look sad, might look grumpy, not sure until I do it. So up from the right into the middle. If you want him smiley, you've got to put a little bit up at the end. So on a happy green man, you're going to have to put another little stitch on the end to make him look happy, but we'll see how he looks. This, as soon as you put features into something, it changes the whole thing. So go quite like that, and then I'm going to put a little one underneath as well. So I'm coming between those 2 points now, and I'm going to go the other way down between that one, and we'll do a little V shape this way. Could leave it like that, might just put the little bit in between in there as well. Just a tiny little stitch across here between his lips. There we go, that's all there is to it. That's 3 fly stitches and a little straight stitch to do his lips, and I think I'm going to leave it like that. I'm quite happy, looking a bit sort of pensive, what's looking out in the woods, see what's going on in the woods today. So I think we'll leave it like that. I'm going to finish the rest of the acorns and then I'll show you the whole thing. So here's my little green man finished with all of his acorns on now. A lot of fun to play with felt and to stitch with felt. Maybe not something that you've thought of doing, but it is a really nice material to use, and you can add your embroidery stitches in there to embellish it and make it something really special. So if you want to have a go at the little green man project, don't forget the free PDF available to you. That's on the free stuff page of our website. The link is in the description below the video. And if you want to have a go at another project using felt, you can try our leaves video. That one is up here. Nice simple project. Have a lot of fun. Learn how to use felt. And if you're interested in the V&A book and what's in there, and there's the projects that I have done in there, you can check out the video for this down below here. Thank you for watching, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed it. Give it a thumbs up if you have, and I'll see you next time.